Hey guys, this is Will at Third and Long. Welcome to the Saturday Best Bets. We are going to be looking at our spreads, over-unders, and the money lines for the ranked matchups for this Saturday for Week 9 for the 2023 college football season. So hit that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get started. So starting out the week at 12 p.m. on Fox, you have number 6 Oklahoma 7-0 versus 5-2 Kansas. So Kansas will be with their backup quarterback. They are a very run-heavy team. They are a good team that was just in the top 25. So Oklahoma comes in as 10-point favorites with the over and under at 65. So Oklahoma almost lost to UCF this past weekend at home. They need to right the ship. They need to get the defense back on track. Dylan Gabriel is still having a Heisman level year. They can definitely throw the ball. Their biggest issue is they cannot run the ball. Their starting running back has 350 yards halfway through the season. That's not good, but look for Oklahoma to rebound here. But do not underestimate Kansas. This is a very good team, and they run the ball really well, so they will control the clock. But I'm going to go with Oklahoma winning 34-24, so they will cover, and I'm looking at the under. So I think the total points scored will be 58, so this will be on the lower side. Next game at 3:30 on CBS, we have number 1 Georgia at 7-0 versus 3-2 Florida. So Georgia comes in as 14.5-point favorites. The over-under is 47.5. So with this game, Georgia, obviously Brock Bowers is out. He will not be playing for the next couple of weeks. But Carson Beck has been having a pretty decent season passing the ball. Their biggest issue, just like the Sooners, they have no running back, number 1. They're not very good running the ball. Look for them to try to get the run game on track to take some pressure off of Carson Beck. Florida is not as good as their record shows. So Graham Mertz, I think he completes like an average of 3 yards per pass. That's not going to do it versus Georgia. So Florida comes into this game wanting to run the ball down Georgia's throat. That definitely plays into their hands. They are a run-stopping team. They have a very good line. They have very good linebackers. So a short passing game will not work versus Georgia. You must be a high-octane vertical team to compete with the Bulldogs, just like the Buckeyes were last season in the bowl game. So I think Georgia is going to get the win here, but it's still a rivalry game, so you never know what might happen. But I have Georgia winning 37-20. They will cover, and I'm going with the over there. Next game at 3:30 on ABC, we have 5-2 BYU at number 7 Texas at 6-1. BYU is a very competitive physical team, so Texas is favored by 18 here with the over-under at 50. I have no clue how Texas is favored by 18. That's zero respect to BYU. That's a massive spread with Quinn Ewers being out. Murphy will be starting. He has some experience playing. He's a very highly recruited quarterback, very high 4-star. So he definitely knows the game plan, but he's not as good as Quinn Ewers. That's why Quinn Ewers was the starter, and Texas with Quinn Ewers last week almost lost to Houston. Texas is a very talented team, so they will be looking to run the ball and play good defense. So take pressure off of Murphy through the run game with Brooks and try to control the game with your defense. I still have Texas getting the win here. I have them winning 34-24, just not covering that massive spread, and I'm also going with the over. Next game at 3:30 on Fox, we have number 8 Oregon at 6-1 versus number 13 Utah at 6-1. So a matchup of 2 top 13 teams from the Pac-12. So Oregon is 6.5-point favorites. Over-under is 47.5. A lot of people are going with the Utes here. And I definitely get it because they've been surprising teams the whole season. But let's be serious. They're not starting Cam Rising. They're starting Barnes. If he starts to stink, they'll roll out Johnson. Either way, they're averaging 290 yards on offense per game. That is atrocious. That's pathetic. That will not beat these high-octane Pac-12 teams. Oregon is not USC. They are actually a very physical team that wants to run the ball downhill. They have Nix, Irving, Franklin. This team is loaded at wideout, quarterback, and running back, and they will try to match you physically. So even if the Utes beat them up at the line, they're not going to beat them up enough to stop the run game. So I have Oregon winning 31-20, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. Could Utah win? Yes, but at some point, their bad offense has to catch up, and I think it's going to catch up with them this weekend. At 3:30 p.m., and I love Kyle Whittingham. It's nothing to do with him. It's just Cam Rising was by far completely changed their offense, and he's not playing. So at 3:30 on ESPN, we have number 20 Duke at 5-2 versus number 18 Louisville. So Duke is coming off of that loss versus Florida State, but they did play really competitive. Riley Leonard was banged up, but they were still able to run the ball and play really good the first half, but they got wore down second half. Louisville, 6-1. They are coming off of that loss versus Pitt. Louisville has a pretty good defense. They have a very efficient offense. Louisville is 4-point favorites here. Over-under is 46. I'm actually going to go with the Duke Blue Devils. I think Riley Leonard should be a little healthier if he plays. He will be able to scramble, run the ball. They will run the ball, and they will play really sound, good defense and special teams. So I'm actually going with the upset here. But Louisville has a very good team. They have Plummer, Jordan, Thrash, lots of weapons. But I have Duke winning 28-21. Not covering the spread, obviously, because I'm going +4 with Duke, and I'm going with the over. Next game that we'll be looking at 12 p.m. on ABC, number 4, Florida State at 7-0, coming off of that win versus ranked Duke, versus 4-3 Wake Forest. So Wake Forest has a pretty decent offense. Do not overlook them. This could easily turn out like that Boston College game where Florida State looked like garbage and barely won the game. However, Florida State got a really good win last weekend versus Duke. They come into this game as 20.5-point favorites. Pretty big spread there. Over-under is 51. Florida State is by far the more talented team. Travis, Benson, Coleman, really good defensive line. They should be able to beat Wake Forest up. They should control this game. Jordan Travis, just stay healthy. He gets hurt every single week. Just stay healthy, get through this team, and stay undefeated. So I have Florida State winning 40-18. They will cover the spread, and I'm going with the over. They will have a pretty good performance this weekend. At 12 p.m. on CBS, we have Indiana at 2-5 versus number 10 Penn State at 6-1. Penn State, 32-point favorites. Really massive spread for an in-conference game, and a 46 over and under. So Indiana, there's not much to say about them. They played the Buckeyes close week 1, but they stink. They don't play good defense. They play atrocious offense. So they really have absolutely nothing going for them. Penn State has a top 10 defense, if not top 5. Lost a very close game versus the Buckeyes. Penn State's biggest issue, Drew Aller, great quarterback. They have absolutely no vertical weapons, and it definitely showed versus the Buckeyes. They cannot stretch the field. So if you have a good defense, you force them into a very contained short-range game, and that's not going to win versus the good teams. Thankfully for Penn State, Indiana is absolutely not a good team in any way. So look for Penn State to get back on track and the roll here. I have them winning 44-10. I have them covering, and I'm going with the over. Next game at 3:30 on NBC, we have Pitt at 2-5 versus Notre Dame at 6-2. Pitt did beat Louisville. They do have a pretty decent offense. Usually they have a very tough defense, but not this year. They are giving up points to everyone. Notre Dame has a top 15 defense and a serviceable offense. They, like Penn State, have no vertical weapons, but they do have a good quarterback in Sam Hartman. Notre Dame, 20.5-point favorites. Pretty good spread there. And the over-under is 44.5. So I have Notre Dame getting to a win, getting to 7-2. I have them winning 38-17. I have them covering, and I'm going with the over. They have Sam Hartman, and they have Estime, and they will get physical and run the ball right down Pittsburgh's throat. Next game at 4 p.m. on ESPN2. Number 22 Tulane at 6-1. Could have been undefeated if Pratt was healthy versus Ole Miss, but it didn't happen. Versus 4-3 Rice. Tulane 10.5-point favorites here, over under 54.5. So that's spread. That's a pretty big spread here because Rice actually has a pretty decent offense. They could easily win this game. So I was kind of split between going +10 with Rice and them winning the game outright. But I ultimately think that Tulane will win 34-2017 because I think Pratt is going to make the difference there, and I think that they will be able to run the ball with Hughes. But I would not be surprised if Rice actually wins this game. So I would stay away from it, but I have Tulane winning 34-27, not covering, and I'm going with the over. Next game at 4 p.m. on the Pac-12 Network. Number 24 USC at 6-2 versus Cal at 3-4. USC 11-point favorites, over under 68. So they have this being a high-scoring game. A lot of people think Trojans should not be ranked because they have 2 back-to-back losses. But come on. 6-2, they have the reigning Heisman winner. They have one of the most talented rosters, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They should definitely be ranked, just not highly ranked. Them being at 24 is perfectly fine. Let them prove themselves. I have USC getting back on track offensively. Their defense can never get back on track because it was never on track in the first place. It stunk the last 2 years. It will continue to stink. Alec Grinch will not change anything. That defense will not get better until Lincoln Riley fires Grinch. But anyways, Caleb Williams will get back to doing what he does. I have USC winning 45-24. They will cover, and I'm just barely going with the over there. Next game at 7 p.m. on Fox Sports 1, we have number 5 Washington at 7-0 versus Stanford at 2-5. Washington, 26.5-point favorites. Pretty big spread there. The over-under is 60.5. So obviously, we know what Washington is. They have Michael Penix Jr., who is just throwing for 400, 450 yards per game. They have Johnson at running back. They have one of the best wide receiver corps in the country, if not the best. They are favored by a lot because they can score the ball quick and fast. And they had a horrible game versus Arizona State, winning like 15-7 or something like that. Very bad game. I'm not worried. Look for them to get back on track here. Stanford is not good at all. They had that win versus Colorado. That's about it. They stink. They are going to get thrown all over. So look for Washington State to cruise to an easy win here. I have them winning 48-20, covering, and I'm going with the over. And I think Penix will probably only play 3 quarters, and that's when Stanford should get some garbage points. But Washington will win convincingly and get their offense back on track. At 7 p.m. on CBS, we have number 19 Air Force, undefeated at 7-0, versus Colorado State at 3-4. Air Force 12.5-point favorites. Over-under is 48. So Air Force had a really good win last weekend versus Navy. They did have, Alaire did play. He was able to run. He was able to throw the ball. So look for Air Force to control the game on the ground with the triple option, drain the clock. Colorado State can actually throw the ball, so they're not a pushover. They did play Colorado really close at the beginning stages of this year, but look for Air Force to control the time of the game. They will get the win 28-20, but I do not have them covering, and I'm going with them coming in right in at 48 on the dot. At 7 p.m. on ESPN, we have number 21 Tennessee at 5-2, coming off of that loss versus Bama where they should have won, but they completely train-wrecked second half versus Kentucky at 5-2. Tennessee, 3.5-point favorites, over-under 51.5. Tennessee, Joe Milton cannot throw the ball past 5 yards accurately. The guy can throw the ball 60 yards, but he couldn't hit a barn at 6 yards. Just completely pathetic throwing the ball, but they can run the ball. They do play pretty decent defense. A lot of people want to see the 5-star backup. Kentucky is a run-heavy team, so look for Kentucky, to me, to be eating up Tennessee trying to control the game running the ball. You don't run the ball on Kentucky unless you're at Georgia or Bama because you have to out-physical them. They are a very physical team. Kentucky is not a good team at all. I do not think they are good, but I am looking at the upset win here. I think Kentucky pulls it out. They win 28-24, and I'm actually going with the over-under, just barely. At 7:30 on NBC, we have Ohio State 7-0, number 3 in the country, versus 5-2 Wisconsin. So Ohio State 14.5-point favorites, the over-under 45.5. Buckeyes, Kyle McCord must get going. They must find a running game, and their offensive line must get things under control. They have one of the best defenses in the country, a top 5 defense, hands down. There's going to be a very low-scoring, slug-it-out game. Wisconsin is without Tanner Mordecai. They do have the backup playing, so that will hurt them. But I don't know that it necessarily would have hurt them. I mean, that it would have helped them anyways because they are a run-heavy team, even with Phil Longo calling plays, just because they don't have the weapons at wideout. So look for this to be a low-scoring, run, clock possession game. I have the Buckeyes winning 24-17, so not covering, and I'm going with the under. Next at 7:30 on the SEC Network, we have 2-6 Vanderbilt versus number 12 Ole Miss at 6-1. Ole Miss, 24.5-point favorites here, over under 63.5. That's a pretty good spread, but Vanderbilt stinks, so that makes complete sense. Ole Miss has a very good run game. They have Quinton Junkins. They have Jackson Dart at quarterback. He can run. He can throw. Vanderbilt does have one weapon, and that's Shepard at wide receiver, and they get the ball to him a lot. So Ole Miss, like I said, 24.5-point favorites. I have Ole Miss getting the win, 41-20, so a very comfortable win. They just won't cover it, and I'm going with the under. Next game at 7:30 p.m. on ABC, 4-3 Colorado versus number 23 UCLA Bruins at 5-2. So Bruins 17.5-point favorites, over under 62.5. So the Bruins with more, they have, or if they start the backup, it is possible that they could go either way. But no matter what, it really doesn't matter because this is a defense-first team. They are very physical at the line of scrimmage. Colorado, they don't run the ball anyway, so the run game is not going to get shut down because it was never working in the first place. But Sanders gets hit a lot. He's one of the most sacked, if not the most sacked quarterback, so that's going to continue this weekend. He will probably get sacked 6 to 8 times. He will get beat up. There will be a lot of quarterback hurry, so look for the Bruins to get the win here. I have them winning 37-24. So I have them not covering, and I'm going with the under, but I do think they might get some fourth quarter garbage points. Next at 8 p.m. on the ACC network, we have number 17 North Carolina Tar Heels at 6-1, coming off of that loss versus Virginia. What a horrible game that was. Versus 3-4 Georgia Tech. So UNC is 11.5-point favorites. Over/under is 63.5. So I've been saying the whole season USC was overrated. They definitely are, but they're way better than Georgia Tech. So UNC will definitely win this game. They have Drake May, a top 5 pick. Tez Walker is back. They have Jones at wide receiver. They have Hampton at running back. They can run the ball, and with Walker, they are definitely a vertical threat now. Georgia Tech can't do anything well. Bad offense, bad defense. So UNC will cruise to a win here. They will get back on track. They will win 38-24. They will cover, and I'm going with the under just because that's a pretty high score. At 8 p.m. on ESPNU, we have Old Dominion at 4-3 versus number 25 James Madison at 7-0. Both of these teams have pretty decent offenses, so anything can happen this game. I would not be surprised to see James Madison go down. So I personally would stay away from this game, but James Madison is a pretty big spread favorite here. They're 20-point favorites, over under 49. I have James Madison winning 40-28, but not covering, and I'm going with the over. Final game at 10:30 p.m. on ESPN, number 11, Oregon at 6-1. Number 11, Oregon. Their last season in the Pac-12, and at week 9, they are number 11. That is crazy. And they are playing Arizona at 4-3. Do not overlook Arizona. They've played everybody really close this year, especially the really good teams. They can score, they can move the ball, but Oregon State is 3.5-point favorites here. Over-under is 56.5 points. So this has an upset written all over it to me. I would not be surprised to see the Beavers go down. DJU, very good quarterback, but their defense does have some holes. But look for Oregon State to be the more physical team and to try to keep the game on the ground through the run game. I have Oregon State winning 31-27. So I have them covering, and I am also going with the over. So that's my breakdown of the Week 9 best bets for Saturday. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.